Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Nitroma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Inhale deeply and suspend your breath. And then we exhale, we gently open our eyes. We keep our fingers all connected. So the tip of your thumbs, index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers touch. And you bring this finger position, this mudra, in front of your solar plexus. And then we will take 4 segmented inhalations through our nostrils and 1 exhalation through the open mouth. So with a segmented breath, you're becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like little zips of air, yes? And it will be like this, like. And on the exhalation, you really pull the navel towards your spine as much as you can. Inhale for segmented breath. And keep going. With each exhalation, you make space for the 4 segmented breath to create more internal balance and really grounding yourself. One more minute. And then do your last round. From here, you slowly bring your hands into prayer pose. And we switch the breath pattern. We inhale up, bringing our palms overhead. Then we start to exhale through the nostril, touching our crown, then touching our third eye, our throat center, and our heart center. All breath is through the nose. It's like inhaling up, exhale, touch your crown, your third eye, your throat, and your heart. Inhale, reach for the heavens, for the divine. Bring the divine into your chakras through your breath. By stretching the arms, we activate the meridians. We're lifting our diaphragm, creating more space internally. Last minute. Last sequence. And then we stay at our heart center. Last pranayama. You inhale through the nose and you bring your arms out to the side, palms facing. Exhale, open mouth, and you bring your palms together. Like just do this for a minute. All these pranayama exercises are really great to release stress and tension. Last 2 repetitions. Take a deep breath here. And then exhale, bring your hands onto your knees, palms facing upward. And then we are ready for Namala.
Thank you, Siddhi. I'm so excited to see all you today. I don't know, I'm just feeling so connected and happy and joyful today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about from untruth into truth. So Siddhi chants our opening invocation for each gathering, and the opening Asatoma Satgamaya is from untruth into truth. It's the Sanskrit from untruth into truth. And it is an invocation that is very common in India and around the world to be used to start your day. That we desire, our intention is to be taken from untruth into truth in all aspects of our lives. Everything from how we think to how we feel to how we manage our emotions to how we perceive what's going on around us and what we're receiving. Our intention is to move from untruth, from biased fear, just misunderstanding into truth. And so I want to share today one man's journey who has come into my life and is intriguing me through a dear friend of mine. His name is Matthew Fox, and you may have heard of him. He's a well-known theologian, an author. He's in his 70s, was a Dominican priest in the Dominican order for, I think he was one for 30 years. And in 1996, at the age of 52, he was basically banished from the church. The Vatican said, we are going to part ways, because he was teaching and speaking to this journey of untruth into truth. And he was including biblical truths of how he perceived and understood certain teachings, how they were not necessarily in alignment with Jesus's teachings, but that they had been actually adjusted by the dogma and the basically in the 4th century by the Roman involvement in the Christian church, when the Romans decided, when Constantine decided that Christianity would be legal religion at the time, there were many theologians came up and started readdressing biblical teachings. And the one that Matthew Fox was most taken by was the teaching of original sin. And that we're not going to talk about original sin today, but it's something really interesting to look at and how he came to his conclusions. But he not only spoke about original sin, he was an environmentalist and social justice. He was an activist for the sacred at a time when that wasn't really a church teaching. The sacred in the church were the rituals and the dogma that was being taught, not anything outside of it. And Matthew Fox just kept pursuing what he felt as his journey from untruth into truth. And so he left the church uninvited. He left. He went on to write. Actually, he's written over 35 books since then. 35 books, and they say he's reached over 250,000 readers. And he is truly an activist for finding the sacred and the truth in everyday life. So he has created a new spirituality, which isn't so new now, but I hadn't heard of, which is called CS, for creation spirituality. And it's about recovering nature and all of creation as sacred and interconnected. So he finds his inspiration in music, in dance, in art, in nature, anything that's creative, he finds as an expression of the sacred that's in life. And so he's been exploring this specifically in writings around women's writings around the 11th to the 14th century. So he's been has just released a book on Julian of Norwich, but he's written about Hildegard de Bingen, St. Francis of Assisi, Thomas Aquinas, Meister Eckhart, Emily Dickinson. He's really into the writings of author and poetess Emily Dickinson. And he's finding this inspiration that is not new, that's old, of connecting ourselves to the truth of where we are in this aliveness that's around us, that's already here, that doesn't have to be written in a book. You will just have to tumble out of bed in the morning into it. That's all. It's right there. There's no journey to some place that's going to reveal the truth. The truth is already right here. And when we start accepting the brilliance of that, then we start also accepting the brilliance of our own divinity, because we're a piece of that. So he's teaching how we are all the spark of that divinity intertwined. And why does that matter to us? Because this is a way for us to view the world and our place in it in a slightly different perspective. And one of the things that I love about him, as we are a women's circle gathering, is that he finds inspiration from the divine feminine. He sees the divine feminine, not saying women specifically, but the divine feminine is the source and the foundation of this truth, of this experience of interconnectedness comes through the divine feminine. And we are expressions of that, of course. And so I see that as a portal for us to enter into as we're looking in our lives to be in this place of uncovering truth all the time, always wanting to be sitting in the grace of truth. What is the grace of truth? And how are we inviting that in to our lives so that everything around us becomes brilliant and effervescent and sparkly and glimmery? Everything is. Everything has that piece of aliveness in it. And when we are able to move out of the judgment of whether or not that aliveness is what we like, what we prefer, what we agree is better or worse, or once we stop in the dualism of looking at things as more than or less than, then everything feeds us. Even the challenges feed us. Everything is food for us. And then we can go through our days with a whole different perspective, that notion of being in constant prayer, when everything around you is an inspiration of some sort and is taking you from a former perceived notion of what was real and sacred to a new understanding of that and to a new truth. then everything in your life becomes explosive, and every moment becomes a moment of prayer. It's unceasing. As St. Paul said in the Bible, it's unceasing prayer. When we learn to be in unceasing prayer, everything becomes alive around us and through us and in us, and we become a part of this sacred thread that we're tethered to. We're in part of a tapestry of aliveness, and the nature is bringing it, and the animals are bringing it, and other human beings are bringing it, and it's just being woven for us to step into and be a part of. And so we have an opportunity when we look through the lens that Matthew Fox is writing to and exploring, to start imagining that there's a explosion of possibility for us, and that there can be this, we talk about, this is the fragrance of joy. What is joy? How elusive is joy? Is joy, do you get into a certain place and now I feel joyful? I don't know why I feel joyful this morning, but I do. But I can't relate it to one thing and say, well, when I see and do this thing, I'm going to be joyful, because it's a movement. It's not a thing. And when we are able to approach our life as this movement of sacredness, then there's a joy that emerges from us and that just oozes out of us. And so I am very interested in what it is that Matthew Fox has written about, because I want to be able to include a different perspective as I'm endeavoring every day to move from untruth into truth, to strip down anytime something that comes to me that I realize I've bundled up myself. I've put my mind thoughts around it. I've created it to be something. I'm not even sure what I created it to be, but to be something that I can receive or I can accept or I can sit with. But it's not holding truth. It's just holding a container that makes me more comfortable. And this is one of the things that Matthew Fox really looks at. How do we get out of that habit, that pattern of going to what is the most comfortable place for me and saying that's where the sacred is for me? We have to go into the uncomfortable. We have to sit in all aspects of aliveness before we're going to feel the joy of being alive. Because if we're predicating our joy on just happiness or certain conditions, it's going to be much more elusive. So if we live our life into the grace of truth, that we are already in a joyful place, even with whatever conditions are happening. When Shelley mentioned how she felt from the healing circle and being just sitting in that, we have an opportunity to place ourselves in situations all day long, whether it's unceasing prayer or it's unceasing gratitude or whatever it is, how it works for you, but to be in that place continually, not stepping in and out of it. We're choosing to step out of it. We don't need to choose that stepping away from. We can just step into, lean into the grace of truth that we are part of, the divine concept of this cosmos that we live in. We are part of that. And it doesn't matter how your life is falling apart or coming together or feeling comfortable or feeling uncomfortable. You didn't move out of that grace simply because you're having a bad day or a tough time or a challenging relationship or whatever it happens to be. That doorway to that doesn't open and close based on you having a good day. It's always open. It's always there for us. So it's incumbent upon us to stretch ourselves and to connect to all that is sacred in life in every moment. And it is a stretch. It's a stretch. And Matthew Fox took a leap in his life from a traditional path and he blew it up. I mean, he self-destructed it in the middle of that path because he wasn't sitting in the truth of what he knew life to be. And he was willing to he pushed the parameters, he pushed the outside parameters of that system, and that system wouldn't hold him and it had to let him go. And he went, and look what he's gone on to do. He's really something. So I recommend that we take the time to explore some of these creative ways that he's mentioning, music and art and writing, poetry, whatever it happens to be, that you go and look. I've picked up all of these new books on, I've been working with Emily Dickinson now, reading hers. I'm reading the Radiant Sutras. I'm listening to different types of music, trying to keep pushing, oh, I only like this genre or this style of music. No, let's see what else excuse me, what else is out there that expands me, that the creative essence doesn't come in one package. Excuse me. And we have the opportunity to drink the nectar of poetry and sunsets and harmonic chords that invite us into the center of who we are, the place where the truest of us resides, without assumptions or judgments. We can relinquish the tainted stories of those who fear our light and our brilliance and our essence. And we can claim our entirety, stretching out of our skin into our effervescence. Live in your effervescence, not the dullness. The dullness is not where we want to be. Joy is not found in the dullness. It's probably there. It's just harder to experience it. But step into that spark and into that aliveness that's happening all around us, in the creativity that other beings and creatures, the sounds that, I mean, there are recordings of the sounds that different creatures make at night when we're supposed to be sleeping that are, I was stunned. I was listening to some of those and I went, wow, I mean, there's a whole harmonic world happening while we're sleeping. Why shouldn't we be listening to some of that? If you can't do it live, at least you can hear a recording of it. There's a beautiful recording by Paul Horn. I think that's his name, Paul Horn. I'll look it up. Who did a recording inside the Taj Mahal with nobody else inside. And he did this, it's a harmonic. So it's a tone that's happening inside the Taj Mahal that is absolutely breathtaking. And you're not even there. You're just listening to it and it moves you in such a powerful way. There are just so many opportunities for us to live into and stretch into a new way of being and a new way of understanding the truth of how it is that we got here and what we're doing here. It's not the action of what we're doing, it's how we're doing life. How are we doing life? And live into that truth and stretch ourselves into that. And then we'll wake up every day with this awareness that we're enlivened and that each day is a portal into revelation for us. We want revelation. We want truth to be revealed to us. We have to engage. We can't sit back and wait and hope that somehow a new truth gets written up in somebody else's book or someone else comes to tell us about it. We have to experience it ourselves. So we have to get up and go into our life and start experiencing outside of your normal comfort zone. Get on an e-bike and go on a trip, go down the road, do something that you don't normally do, stretch outside of your skin, because the places where that effervescence happens is bubbling all around you. It's sparking all around you. It's not just sitting in the core of you, it's all around you. Step into it. And then you're stepping into the sacred. You're stepping into what Matthew Fox talks about as creation spirituality. It's animism. It's talking about the interconnectedness of everything in it. And as we are a part of that, we can't help but have the aliveness. We can't help it. There's no getting away from it because it's already around us. We're in the middle of it. So I invite you this week to look at one of the writings of either Matthew Fox or the juicy poetry of Emily Dickinson or Julian of Norwich, Revelations of Divine Love. Any of these are portals into revealed truth as you experience it in relationship to that writing. And maybe you'll experience it in relationship to a hike you take or into a study you do of the animal noises in the middle of the night, whatever it happens to be. There's so much aliveness here for us. And we can become complacent. Don't be complacent. Go out and live into that truth so that the divinity and the spark of you becomes how your life unfolds. It becomes your day. And then there's going to be a lot of joy squishing around us. That's what I wish for all of us this week.
Wonderful. So, and in that spirit, I thought it would be wonderful this morning that we thought it would be wonderful if we would be chanting together. Um, and we would chant the Om Mani Padme Hum. And I wrote it into the chat so that you can see the words. You know, one translation in yoga is always, it's the praise of the jewel in the lotus. And I have to admit, I really can't relate to that a lot. You know, so I looked it up and to see the deeper meaning of it. And then I found this beautiful translation that the Om stands for the vibration of the universe, the sound that we hear in the universe. The Ma represents the ethics and the purifying of the ego. The Ni represents patience and purifies our wants and our desires. Pad represents diligence and purifies ignorance and judgment. And Mi represents concentration and purifies attachment. The Hum is the unity of all, and it represents wisdom and it purifies hatred. And I thought, especially in these days, what we see out in the world, it would be a wonderful mantra to chant. So the chant that we do this morning will be just for around 6 minutes, but I want us to sit quietly afterwards and just mentally recite it so that it really enters every cell of our being. So we do 6 minutes out loud and then you just sit with it. You hear it. So it's Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah. So I invite you to, you can sit anywhere you want. Yeah. Any mudra, any finger position, anything that works for you this morning. And then you gently closing your eyes. Some of you might need to adjust the volume on your laptop or device. And then allow the frequency really to penetrate your heart and your spirit.
Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum,
And we gently bring our hands into prayer pose. Allowing ourselves to feel the peace within us in this moment. And praying for the peace in our world. May there be peace for all. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We will be together on Friday and we will see each other again on Saturday. Namaste.